Hello there and welcome to Tom's Warhammer Minis. The War Despots are the lords of the Ziggurats royal clan and commanders in the times of war. They are swollen with dark power and clad in chaos-imposing armour, seeing all beneath them as scum. This is a fantastic new leader character model that Games Workshop have created for the new range of the Helsmiths of Hashut. In this tutorial, I'm showcasing my own take on the purple colour, while keeping the metallics loyal to the box art scheme that we've seen. I'll showcase the green energy of the blade, the free handing of the robe, and a unique take on this model. Now, I have seen various painted versions of this model, both on Warhammer community, we've seen the box art, I've seen different colours of the army, and people tend to go very dark in tone all over. And this does tend to make all the exquisite details that are on the model become rather unnoticeable. My plan for this army is to go brighter and bolder, with some of those darker tones in place just to really highlight all of this brilliant sculpt. Essentially, it's all about making the model pop, which is essential when it comes to great miniature painting. With that said, it's time to get started. So grab your paints, grab your brushes, grab your Helsmiths, and let's get hobbying. And we're going to get started with our War Despot, our angry little Chaos Dwarf leader, and he looks like an incredible sculpt. I absolutely love it. So to begin with, just to note, I've primed the model in white scar, because I really want a nice, bright, bold, vivid finish. So to begin with, we're going to do 3 quick colours in succession. So starting with the skin tone, and this is just the face, but we want to be careful around the teeth and the inside of the mouth. We don't want to catch that. But I'm going around the skin, and the colour I'm applying is just a thin layer of Reichland flesh shade. When I say thin, I don't mean it's thinned down. You just want to tip on the brush so you've got more control, and just start in the corner, bring it around to the other corner, bring it around the nose, avoid the mouth, go around the outside edge and do the bottom lip. It's as simple as that. Now we need it to fully dry, and while it's fully drying we can focus on some other details. So to begin with, let's take Black Templar. I'm painting this over the beard. Now we have got some metal pieces here, but because it's going to be base coated in metals, we can just paint straight over it and do the entire beard. So we just got a little section down the side here, not on this side, obviously you got that bit, but you've got the gems that are covering this section over here. But we'll just get that painted, and I've also applied it over the rock of the base. Once the Reichland flesh shade is done, we're going to the teeth, and I'm just applying an even layer of Nuln Oil. Now some of the Reichland has gone into the tooth here. That's okay, we're going to fix it up. But as long as we can get the Nuln Oil into the actual centre mouth, that's the main thing. We want a black recessed shade rather than a Reichland flesh shade recessed shade. Next up, we're focusing on the inside sleeves of the cloak, and it just has that outer trim that goes all the way around, as you can see. Now, we need to create a very thin pink. It's going to require a heavily thinned down mix, and you're going to have to trust the insanity of what I'm about to tell you. We are going to mix a colour of Doomfire Magenta. It's going to be one tiny small part of a small layer brush. We're then going to take one tiny small part of Magos Purple, and then we're going to add 15 parts of Lahmian Medium. So that's 1-5, not 5-0, that would be insane. But 1-5, 15 parts of Lahmian Medium. So it's a 1:1 to 15 mix, and it's going to create this ultra thin pink glaze that's absolutely beautiful and perfect. It's going to be very contrasting against all the other dark colours. Now, when you apply it, we don't want it to pull in any particular area, because otherwise the Doomfire Magenta, which is extremely strong, is going to be so bright, it's so dark, it's so vivid, it's going to spoil what we do. So just really move the brush around and control the flow of the paint to create this type of colour. Obviously in the inside sleeves you have got a bit of a recessed shade, as you can see I've controlled it there. Just be aware when you apply it in, it's going to get very heavy to begin with, because once it's on your brush it's very watery, it's very thin, even though there's no water in it, and it's just going to go everywhere. But use your brush, wipe off any excess, control where it goes, and this is what you'll end up with. Next up, we're painting the soft robe details. Now I want to put my own stamp on these models. I wasn't keen on the box art colours that we saw. It's more of a Sigvald Burgundy scheme. Now I love Sigvald Burgundy as a colour, but it's very dark, very strong, and with all the dark metals, for me, they don't work very well. They just don't stand out as nicely, especially when you've got a very overall dark model. It just makes all these wonderful details harder to pick out of the eye. So I'm going for what I call Miao Ying Purple. Now, Miao Ying Purple is a colour scheme I created for Miao Ying, the Storm Dragon character model, the tutorial which you can also see on my channel. It is very bright and it is very vivid, as you can see, and it is a mix of 3 different paints. So the colours we're going for here is Leviathan Purple. We're going to take 4 parts of this. We're going to mix it with 2 parts of Luxian Purple and 1 part of Lamy Medium. The Lamy Medium is just going to help with the flow, especially over these large flat areas. And it just creates this real rich, very royal, regal look. Now, imagine with all the dark metals in place, it's going to stand out nicely. You've got this bright pink, this rich purple, and this evil, chaotic metal. The colour scheme, even though it doesn't look like it now, it's going to really stand out and make it look bold. And it's just my own take on the model. But if you want to keep it to the box art scheme, I'd recommend going down the Sigval Burgundy route. Now, before we move on to the next colours, just to note, I have applied purple, the same mix, into that sash that's at the bottom here. I saw it was a Sigval Burgundy colour, thought might as well use the purple there too. Now, moving on to our next colours, we're going to focus on the horns. Now, this is not thinned down with any drop of Lamy Medium, though you can do to help the flow if that's your choice. Now, the colour I'm using here is Gryph-hound Orange, and as you can see, where it's applied, it has pulled in certain areas. Now, I'm using this to my advantage. It has a rather marbled effect. I'm going to take advantage of that when you look at the box art by having it slightly pooling in certain areas. Obviously, you don't want it to heavily pool. So move the paint around, but we're base coating the entire horns. Start from the tip at the top here, paint it down, paint the other side, dry your brush, wash it, dry it, and just move the paint around until it's not excessively pooling. It will darken in certain areas, but like I say, we're going to use that to the advantage later. Moving on from that, while it's drying, we're going to focus back on the face once more. And where we did the Reikland Flesh shade, I'm going over it with Targor Raid shade. It's going to give this slightly augmented skin tone, which is absolutely perfect for our Chaos Dwarves, much more similar to the box art. Now we've got some green details. Now I'm doing my model slightly differently. This is base coated in metal, and it's then tinted green. I'd rather have some pure green, break up all of this metallic detail. We've also got the ring, and we've also got this rune down here. Now bear in mind, the rune's going to be done slightly differently, but for all the details that we've just mentioned, they're base coated in striking scorpion green. The ring is a hidden gem. Just beware that it is there. It's his middle finger on that hand. There are no rings on this one. It's a blink and you'll miss it kind of detail, especially as you don't really see it. Now, while this is wet with the striking scorpion's green, I've painted Dark Angel's green straight over it. It's going to mix together on the model. Just keep moving the paint around till you get this style of effect. It's a bit hard to see in the light here, but it's similar to the box art that we see. I've just added a small amount of Dark Angel's green to the bottom of the ring, leaving the striking scorpion as the edge highlight. Not too much Dark Angel's green there, just a little amount. Next up, we're taking Black Legion. And this is for the underskirt that's all around the bottom edge. So just take your time. We don't really want to catch the base, but if we catch the metallic details, it's okay. We're going all the way around, and then when we go to the back, I'm not sure what colours the Heavy Metal team used. There is no 360 of the box art on the website, which is a bit of a shame. But I have done a leather strap that's here on the holster, and then there's this thing that's hanging from the belt. Again, I don't know what it is, so I've gone with Black Legion. I was thinking of Cycle Brown. There's going to be a lot of browns and other gold metals, so I want to kind of distinguish it. There's going to be no black metal, so Black Legion would stand out nicely. But if you want to do a different colour, go ahead. Now, once the Black Legion's done, we're going to take White Scar. We're going to do something a bit different. We're going to highlight the horns now because we're going to be adding a different colour over it. I want to create that lightning effect that we see, but in a slightly different way. So I've done traditional edge highlights all the way around, and in the centres around each edge and area, I've done different scratches, different sort of lightning marks. You name it, you do what you like for it. It just adds the detail because when I put a contrast paint over it, that white scar is going to show through as a different colour, and it's going to make the whole area of the horns pop. Next up, we're starting to shift the colour of the horns. Now, the colour I'm using here is Pterodon turquoise, and I have thinned this down with Lamy medium, so we're talking roughly 2, maybe even 3 parts, that kind of ballpark, of Lamy medium to roughly 1 part of Pterodon turquoise. Now, when you apply it, the Lamy medium is going to make it very thin and very runny, which is great because we want this thinned, very well thinned down tone of colour. But it's going to make the liquid pool very quickly, especially into the recess here and here. So paint the entire horn and just keep moving the paint around until it settles in an even layer all over. You want this tint, because what we're going to do is when it's fully dry, we're going to add more Pterodon turquoise in its purest form and feather it out so we've got a lighter tone at the top of the horn with the darker tone at its core. So get that done, just move the paint around and just be aware of pooling. But once you've got the paint settled and controlled, it will start to dry, just as you're seeing here. We need to wait for the Pterodon turquoise to dry completely, so we can take advantage of doing the first couple of metallic details. To begin with, I'm taking Iron Hand Steel. I'm using this bright silver over this section of the weapon. Next up, I'm taking Iron Warriors, the opposite to that bright, a much darker colour of silver, and I'm applying this over the blade. Now I have had to apply 2 thin coats to this, so we've got an even coverage, but I've only applied 1 coat down here on the bottom scales, going all the way around. And I've got this belt strap here that I've decided to pick out in the silver, and then I've got the actual weapon, the pistol itself, which I've base coated in this Iron Warriors. So get those details done, and hopefully by the time it's done, like mine has, the Pterodon turquoise we did to begin with has fully dried. Next up, we're going to focus on the horns once more. Now I'm taking Pterodon turquoise again. Now starting from the root of the horn, I'm painting it 2/3 the way up, just about to where my finger is. Wash your brush, don't completely dry it, but while it's damp, not soaking wet, but just damp, feather out the Pterodon turquoise to the top to create this natural blend from light to dark. Both sides, both horns, and you'll end up with this awesome looking effect. The white scar that we did earlier, it will just have little tiny effects. It'll be lighter, it'll be brighter, obviously it won't be pure white now, but it blends perfectly. Once that's done, going back to the Iron Hand Steel that we did here, keeping it to the box art, we're taking Skeleton Horde and we're painting it straight over that metallic detail. Next up, we're doing one of the big metallic base coats. And this is all the gold bronze looking details. Now the colour I'm using here is Brass Scorpion. Now if you've seen my tutorials before, I've talked quite openly about this paint. It's much more like a base paint rather than a layer paint, though it does require 2 thin coats to have a nice solid colour, especially on large flat areas like this. Now the thing to be aware of, it's quite thick. Now whenever I get a new one like this one, I always put a bit of Lamy medium in, give it a good shake. It just helps to thin it down ever so slightly, otherwise you will clog details, especially around all this recess area. We don't want to have thick clogged paint in it, otherwise it will spoil this absolutely well designed model. So I'm going to do a 360 just to give you an idea of where it is. We're base coating around all the gems, the bottom of the beard, the design detail on the robe sash at the bottom. You've got the crown, you've got the earrings that are on the horn, you've got the butt of the weapon, the little design of the weapon, and you've got this section of the blade. Obviously we did that in the Skeleton Horde, but you've got the bottom, and you've got this main section here. So it's quite a few areas to cover, and I really would recommend 2 thin coats just to really get a solid foundation. Once that's done, I've taken some lead belcher. We've only got a small area to cover, and this is the 3 metallic sections that are on the front of his beard. I've left the recess shading of the Black Templar in place, but we just got 1, 2, 3 there. And lastly, if you're going to copy what I'm doing for the base design, you'll have seen it at the beginning of the video. Of course, it's not quite done at this stage, but I'm taking Frostheart in its purest form and just painting it straight over the base. You'll understand more of that later on. The next metallic detail we're applying is Rune Lord Brass. There's not much to do here. Think of this really as armour trim. So where you've got the gauntlets, you've got this bit here, same on the other side, and it's this kind of style trim that we're looking for. You've got it on the shoulders, right by the neck, you've got this central column down the spine, and on the actual gun holster, you've got the top, the bottom, and the 2 designs. I've done it around this detail here, though I'm not sure if that is the right colour. We can't actually see on the box art, so I've gone for it because it's in keeping with the rest of the armour. Now, these details, I recommend 2 thin coats just to get a solid colour. Runelord brass can be a bit of a funny paint sometimes, but 2 thin coats gets a solid brass bronze colour. Our last remaining base coat colour for all of the white details that are remaining is Warplock Bronze. Now, I find this base coat to be a bit of an odd one. When I apply the first layer in a nice thin even layer like you would do, it seems to separate, especially around the edges where you don't get any metallic flakes and you just get an oddish grey colour. What I find is applying a second thin coat all over, so 2 thin coats, just creates a solid foundation all over. I don't know if it's just the paint that I own, you know, if there's something wrong with this particular one, but it's just something to be aware of if it happens for you. If you paint a thin there and it separates, don't worry. A second there, as you can see, creates this absolute solid dark bronze colour all over. With that, all of our base coats are in place, so we can begin shading. Next up, we've got a whole host of colours to go through. So to begin with, we're taking Hex-Ray Flame. Now, I've applied this in 2 different areas, but we're focusing it on the blade. So where we did the striking scorpion green on both sides, I've applied it over that just to enrich the colour. And on the blade itself, on both sides, I've gone round the brass scorpion edge here, up the central part here, and then for the markings on this side, I've placed it in there. It's not going to stand out heavily, it's just to give a bit of a green tint, which we'll be building upon in later stages. Next up, we're going to begin our shading. The first colour I'm using is Reikland Flesh Shade. Now, this is over all of our brass scorpion details and just a couple of the Runelord brass details. There's not many Runelord brass details to cover because you've got large flat areas like this, but on the shoulder pads you do have this recess, and I've gone with that. But the brass scorpion is where we really want to focus on. Next up for our shades is Nuln Oil, and this is over all of our silver details, and that does include the blade once the Hex-Ray Flame is dry. After that, my last shade is Targor Rage Shade, and this is over all of our Warp Lock Bronze details. It's a lot darker, and it just helps to tone it down a little bit more. I could go Agrak Surf Shade, but I didn't want it too dark. Now, once the Reikland Flesh Shade is completely dry, I'm taking Stormhost Silver and I'm painting it over all of these gems. There's no hidden ones, you've got them all here on the beard and then one on the crown. And while we're doing little details, we can wait for things to dry. I've taken Evil Sun Scarlet, just the tiniest amount on the tip of the brush. I've turned our Chaos Dwarf sideways and I've just painted the eyes, just to give him a demonic look. And the last thing I've done is on the base, because I'm going to be applying a texture paint. I want it to crackle better. I've applied a varnish, and that is Ard Coat, a gloss varnish. It just really helps crackle paints to adhere, stick to, and crack easier. And next up, we're base coating the gems. Now, it's very important to note, when you look at the box art, there are actually 2 different colours. A lot of the models that I've seen so far of the War Despot, everyone's gone straight with the red and just done them all red. But if you are copying the box art and being very precise, there are 2 different colours, and we're going to go through that now. The first colour we're doing is Blood Angels Red. It's bold, it's bright, and it's vivid. So we're applying this on the top gem on the crown, and on the centre here, you've got the central gem. Then on its left, its right, and the 2 above. For the other 4 gems, I have painted Magos Purple over them. You get this purplish tint. It's not too dark. I didn't want to go Luxian Purple. That would have been too strong, because that's not matching the box art, and this is the closest we're going to get. So you've got the 2 gems on the far left here, and the 2 gems on the far right there. And then finally, I'm adding texture to the base. Obviously, we did it in Frostheart because I want the blue to show underneath. This is my personal choice for the army. I've then applied the Ard Coat, and this is going to help the texture paint both stick, and it's going to prevent a lot less chipping happening. Obviously, I can varnish it afterwards as well, but we'll go through that later on. The technical paint I'm using here, if you want to copy exactly, is Morden Earth. The thicker you apply it, the bigger the cracks. The thinner you apply it, the smaller the cracks. I've applied a thin there. I just want some small cracks. I'm going to add some tufts at the very end, but we're nowhere near that stage yet. But for all intents and purposes, at this point in time, our model is officially battle ready. It does look phenomenal. When that's dried, it's going to look even better. But we're not going to leave him there. We're going to take him to the next stage and add a lot of highlights. It's time to begin our first set of highlights. Now, just note the horns, I'm not going to be highlighting them by doing that white scar earlier and then doing the 2 layers of different Pterodon turquoise. We've got a real nice strong highlight in place. There's no point spoiling that. We'll course, if you do want to highlight it, that is down to you. First off, let's focus on the face. Now, there's not much. There's only a small area of skin to cover. So really, we could just do a couple of spot highlights and just a tiny couple of edge highlights on the bottom lip, as well as the cheeks. And the colour I'm using is Flayed One Flesh. Then, moving on to the eyes. It's a bit hard to see on the camera here, but I've just done the tiniest dot of Luganeth orange over that Evil Sun Scarlet. Just makes it like there's a pupil in there that's slightly more demonic and evil. Moving on from that, focusing on the teeth, I've just done small highlights of White Scar, just to pick them out a bit more. And my next colour is Administratum Grey. Now I've used this in a couple of different areas. So for the beard, I've done some just edge highlights, done it on the side there too. Then you've got the bottom part of the skirt that we did in Black Legion. I've done a nice edge highlight all the way around. Then you've got the rock, which I've highlighted on the base there. And on the back, we've got the leather strap that we did in Black Legion, and I've picked out this detail here. Next up, I forgot to do this in getting the model battle ready, and that's to shade the purple details. The colour I've used is Druchii Violet. Really enhances all of that purple, just making it have a lot more definition. Obviously be careful where you get to the pink areas. Now that needs to dry, and we can take full advantage of doing the next highlight. The colour I'm using here is Stormhost Silver, and we've got quite a few details to cover with this paint. So to begin with, the obvious being the silver details. For the central part of the beard, for these 3 metal strips here, I've done a vertical line in the middle, and then a small edge highlight on both sides, up and down on each side. For the scales, I've done a vertical highlight, picking out all the central parts of the scales, and you'll be able to see that they have got an actual edge there. For the blade, I've highlighted it completely, including the central bit. We've still got the Hex Ray Flame on the left and the right, but it means, because it's so bright, when we apply greens, we'll have a highlight in place for that as well, similar to how we've done the horns. For the skeleton horn that we did over the Iron Hand Steel, I've just picked out the studs, as you can see. You obviously got the weapon, and you've got the belt. So there's all these details. There's quite a few to do, but I've also used the Stormhost Silver because it's extremely bright to pick out all of our Rune Lord brass details. I could have gone Canoptic Alloy, but it's so similar, considering this is not shaded down, whereas Stormhost Silver really picks out the details nicely. So for all of our Rune Lord brass details, as you can see, they've been highlighted in Stormhost Silver too. There's not too many of them, it's just these edge trims, as you know. And then we can move on to the next stage. Next up, we're focusing on all the purple details. Now I was trying to find what could I do for the actual pink robe. There isn't much that's a brighter colour, so I've just done a very thin edge highlight of White Scar just on the outside robes, just where you've got that natural recess shade curving round. Moving on from that, we're highlighting all of our purple details, and the colour I'm using here is Dakala Lilac. It's quite bright, it's quite vivid, and it just really makes those details showcase and pop. I was thinking of a different purple, such as Cacophony. It would showcase, you can just about see it, but we really need to go bright, bold and vivid, especially with all these metallic details that are bold and vivid. Next up, I'm taking Xeris Purple. Now I'm using this paint to create the freehanding pattern that we see along the pink edge of the cloak. The best way to describe it is they're semicircles. So just start with the curved edge, draw the line, meet it up, paint in the middle. It's really nice and simple. And next up, we're highlighting all of our Brass Scorpion and our Warp Block Bronze colours in the same colour. The one I'm using here is Canoptic Alloy. It is bright, it is vivid, and it really picks out those details nicely, and we've got a lot of shine going on now. I'm also doing it to pick out all the edges around the gems. Just be careful not to catch the gem colour that we've done. You've got the sigil here, which is painted entirely like a base coat. And as you can see, there's a lot to do. Just use a small airbrush and just really take your time picking out those details. Obviously being careful as you get towards the other colours because we don't want to spoil them. But with that done, it's very nearly complete. We just got a few more things to do. Next up, we're focusing on all of the green details just to make them pop and enhance a little bit further, especially on the blade. Now I am taking Warp Lightning to begin with, and we are thinning it down. We're talking roughly 2 parts of Lamy Medium to 1 part Warp Lightning mix. Now, this focus is on the gem that we see here, that we did in the Striking Scorpion Green. I want to enhance it a little bit more. It's just going to darken it down ever so slightly. And on the blade, we're painting from the bottom all the way up, or in this case, I'm going from the top all the way to the bottom because of gravity. But we're stopping just around here. I'm going to wash the brush and while it's damp, not completely wet, we're going to feather out that green up towards the top. So we've got this blend of green to silver. Same on the other side. Now once that's completely dry, and we do need it to be completely dry, I'm shading it just a little bit further with Bell Tan Green. Now I'll apply this in a few different areas. Once again, the gem that we see in the staff, the entirety of the blade, because that's going to help the warp lightning just blend completely into the silver, gives that little tint, as well as this little thing down here, just to enhance the greens a bit more. The hex ray flame that we did isn't very noticeable now, but it's in place. We've got different darknesses of green, and it just means we can add a little bit of moot green in the next stage just to finish off the sword once it's completely dry. Next up, we're going to finish off all the remaining highlights. We're going to start with the green. The colour I'm using is moot green. Now, we're going to do it in two different ways, but we're going to start with a traditional edge highlight. Now, this is on the details down here. I've picked out that sort of 8 number symbol, and then we've done a traditional edge highlight around the edge. I've done a traditional edge highlight on the actual gem part in here. Not very noticeable, it's very similar in colour, it just picks it out and makes it more of a solid colour. Then I've taken 2 parts of Lamy Medium to roughly 1 part Moot Green and created a really thinned down mix. Now I'm using this as a glaze to go into the recesses and create this glow effect on the runes. It's only on this side of the blade. And then around the brass scorpion, I've put it in to do a sort of recess shade, but really to make the eyes actually see it's kind of glowing. That energy is bleeding upwards. That's the effect we're going for. It's what the heavy metal team have done. I've added a tiny amount of that moot green into that center recess. You can see it's on both sides, just to show that that energy is bleeding through. With that, our greens are done. The shine that you see on the blade is actually Bell Tan Green, where it sometimes dries in a glossy way, and I like that effect. It creates a nice natural sheen. Next up, the colour I'm taking is Fulgrim Pink. I'm using this to carefully edge highlight all the gems. Now once that's done, they are going to look a bit flat and a bit odd, and we want to make them shine, because obviously they're gems, and I'm using Ard Coat Gloss Varnish. Just a simple amount put on each of the gems. I've also used the gloss varnish on the green that we see within the brass scorpion, what I call that gem. Finally, if you are following along with the base, because the model's now technically done, obviously I'm doing this blue crackle ground. The Mordant Earth is completely dry. I am going to dry brush it, which I'll show the colour in the next stage. But crackle paints are notorious for chipping off. We kind of want to seal it down. So what I've applied here is Storm Shield and matte varnish, just a thin layer over the top. It's just going to seal it in. So as long as we're gentle with the dry brushing, it won't chip. And I'll showcase the next colour in the next stage. And finally, just to enhance the blue, that's the crackled underneath, I've just done a very gentle dry brush of Baharoff blue. There's no real explanation to it, it's just a small amount on the dry brush. Work it into the paper so it's completely dry and just gently brush it on. Just a reminder, you don't want to go too hard because you can still end up chipping the Mordant Earth, and we don't want to do that. So with that done, our model is officially complete. All I'm going to do is touch up the base so it's nice and black, you know, the rim here, and I'm going to add a couple of tufts and we'll showcase it off. And our War Despot is complete. I really find bolder, brighter colours really enhance this model so much better. I see some really brilliantly painted ones, but they're just generally a lot darker, and these tones for my eyes just blend into one overall dark tone where the details just get blocked out. But seeing the model in person, painting it like this, I can really appreciate what a fantastic and brilliant model, as well as an army, that the Helsmiths are. Now if this video has helped, then do give it a like. Share so others can be inspired to make their army stand out beautifully too. And subscribe to see all the latest tutorials. Now at this stage I can absolutely confirm that I will be covering the entirety of the Helsmiths of Hashut range as they release. But it truly is support that keeps this channel growing. It does something absolutely wonderful. Supporting me means I get to support you, the awesome Warhammer community, and I really appreciate all the support so far. So until the next tutorial and video, look after yourselves and happy hobbying.